Well, the fox went out on the chase one night. He prayed for the moon for to give him light. He had many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh, town, oh, town, oh. He had many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh. That was our first song on stage, a little unnamed group called the 3Ds. Well, later called the 3Ds. At that time, unnamed, called Unnamed, I suppose. What's in a name? Shakespeare said that. You probably knew that. Well, I guess he was putting his own group together. What's in a name? Well, it can be a big deal, of course. Marketing things, memorable, that sort of thing. And the 3Ds had interesting impact on various people. Our producer at Capitol Records, when we signed there, he said the 3Ds is the corniest name I have ever heard. He said, we want something kind of cool, kind of folky, kind of current. We're thinking the Salt City 3. That's not such a bad name, but we decided to stick with the 3Ds. Same when we were in Las Vegas. Our agent there said, the 3Ds doesn't do a thing on the marquee. The papers don't, nobody knows what it means. And he said, we've got an idea. We were singing there with two beautiful and talented young women, Sandy Griffiths and Sally Flynn, on stage known as Sandy and Sally. Now, there's a cool name. Later on, they were with the Lawrence Welk show. They were stars on that show for many, many seasons. So we were going to just call ourselves the 3Ds and Sandy and Sally. But our agent said, look, people like your show. It's clean, it's refreshing. But here in Vegas, we have the other element. So there's a saying, if a guy goes out and, has a good time with a good-looking woman, we call that good, clean fun. We should name your group Good, Clean Fun. And then the people who like that fresh, clean image, they'd have that. And the people who want the other interpretation, well, they could, kind of wink, wink, smirk, smirk, We said that would not be us. As the saying goes, that should stay in Vegas. So we went on stage on the marquee, the 3Ds and Sandy and Sally, and we had a pretty good run there. Well, the name itself, as I say, is kind of prosaic. It just does the job. But it kind of sticks in people's minds. We liked it because, well, we could spell it. It was easy. Nobody else seemed to want it or would quite fit it. Some people said, did you get it off your school report card, the 3Ds? Does it stand for dumb, dumber, and dumbest? Duh, duh, duh. Well, we said, whatever, as long as you remember it. That's the important thing. It started out, we were performing, and this MC said, what's your name? So we thought, what shall we do for a name? I looked around the table, and there was Dennis, and there was Duane, that's me. I thought, D, and there was Richard. That's what his mother called him. Mothers do that. But when we grew up together in Payson, Utah, a little wide place in the road in Utah, he was known as Rick at school. And I thought, if Rick would go to Dick, we would have D, 3 Ds. I did the math in my head, incidentally. So I said, Rick, do you mind being called Dick? And then we'll have the 3 Ds. And he said, well, a D, an R, no big deal. It makes no reference to me. Little joke. And we became the 3 Ds. And as they say, the rest is history. Or in our case, a small footnote in history, in a small book of history in some obscure place. But we did have, at least once, when we were historic. The story goes like this. President Howard W. Hunter, president and prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, he was speaking at Brigham Young University in the big basketball arena there. Holds 25,000 people, jammed to the rafters. And he was speaking to them. He said this, A few years ago, there was a group called the 3Ds, named after the first letters, the names of the group and the singers in the group. He said, today in the 90s, that's when he was speaking, if we had a group called the 3Ds, it would probably stand for despair, discouragement, and despondency, or I think that was it, a lot of dis words. He was about to continue and give us better counsel, how to be more optimistic and had a fine speech prepared. But in the back of the Marriott Center, the door opened and in came a nutcase named Cody Judy. He came down the stairs, all the way down the stairs to the basketball floor where the podium was set up, and he was waving a bomb. He said, I have a bomb here. It was a square black thing wrapped in black tape. That's why it was black. Looked pretty fearsome. Turned out it was a telephone, but in those days, I guess you could make a telephone look pretty scary. These days, I guess if you came with a telephone wrapped in tape, it would probably be a cell phone with a couple of Band-Aids on it. That wouldn't look too scary. But anyway, here he came. I have a bomb, I have a bomb. He came down and confronted President Hunter and said, you need to retire. You need to make me the president and prophet of the Mormon Church. Wow. That's not how it's done. No. Well, in the process of his presentation, as it were, he lost his focus and security jumped him and piled on, and then about half of the Marriott Center piled on top of them, or so it looked at least. Anyway, that was the end of his short, self-appointed reign as president and prophet of the church. Well, frankly, I was relieved. I thought he was a music lover who would come to a 3D show and wanted to get his money back. He had many a mile to go that night before he reached the town of